Round 8 is upon us. We've got plenty to talk about in this one. We're going to be going through my buy prep and where it's at currently and how I think you should set it up. There's a couple of ways to do it. This is the way I think just looks best at the moment for me. And there's another option as well that the NRL Fantasy Amateurs have come up with that they've got set up there. And if you haven't checked out their article, really good one there on how to set yourself up without using a lot of trades through the buy period. So if you're someone that's traded a lot, that could be good to have a look at, but I'll summarize it a little bit in here as well. So this is where mine's at the moment. We'll also go through the buy planner sheet as well, and you know, the next 3 rounds, especially heading towards round 13 and the important section there. So let's dive into my one there to start with. And if you look at my squad at the moment, I have my full 21 there, and I've just got it set up as, you know, hooker, the 3 mids there, the 2 edges, halves, and the like, all the way through to emergency section there, and the blue means they are not playing. So a buy is usually the one there, and then if I've got a grey, that one there means that I have the allotment of players in round 13, unfortunately, and I can't use Katoa. So bringing in Brown last week means I will have Brown and Johnson. So if I wanted to, I could slot Brown up into that half position for Cleary there. And Katoa, unfortunately, he would still, you know, play and he would still make money or lose money or whatever happens there, but he won't be a scorer in my playing 13. And, you know, that's what we mean by the playing 13, guys. Nothing on the left side. It's just all this section here. So your 1 hooker, your 3 mids, 2 edges, 2 halves, 2 centers, and 3 wing fullbacks. So, you know, in those positions where there are multiple, you know, 3 especially, the mids and the wing fullbacks, it's going to be pretty tough to field a full 3 in both those sections. But then the hooker can be a little bit tough too if you have your hooker out in one of those games, and Grant is a great scenario for that. In round 13, he is out. So if you want a playing hooker, if you want to try and get close to 13, then that is something you need to think of and making sure you get some backup. If you're not worried about playing 13, and there is strategy to show that, you know, you don't go absolutely crazy in round 13 and try and get round 13 for 13 players, try and get them all playing in that squad, because it will stuff you up in round 14 potentially, and then other rounds going down the line. So yeah, we'll talk about that strategy as well. And what we look at with my team, let's have a dive into that now, is in round 13, if you take out Katoa, Ben Murdoch-Masila, I don't think it's really going to play. Unlikely, you could, but yeah, at this point, we'll just say he's not playing, and that's what that is. He's just out of favor, is what that color is. And then, you know, Talau has his bye as well in that round 13. So even if we think he wasn't going to play, he might be. Even if you think he wasn't, he won't be in that for round 13. So Robson, Hopgood, Ford, Johnson is 4, Lemuelu, Miller 6, and then Brown 7. So currently only 7 available to play. Brown, I said, will move up into the half position. So what do you do with that? You look at round 14, and that's the next one on the list. Round 14, you can use 17 players as normal. At the moment, if I was to leave my team exactly as is, obviously 5 rounds left until we get to round 13. So still plenty of changes to be made, and yeah, we'll speak about that in a sec. But Hopgood there is out in that one, Miller, Brown. So we got Seagulls that are out in this one, along with Eels and also the Knights. So just be aware if you are picking guys up like Crossland and you know, it could be Frizzell or, you know, Hopgood or Brown or Moses, whoever you looked at in those type of teams there, they're gonna be out in round 14. So if you're sitting there with a couple of players that aren't playing, whether it's Harley Smith-Shields, Murdoch-Masila, the Talaus, these types of guys, both of them might play, but we'll just say they're out right now. You then have 3 to 5 players, let's say from the Eels. So, you know, let's just say right now I've got 3. I have 5 out, which means I only have 16 available for round 14. So 7 available in 13 and, you know, 16 available in 14. So it shows that it's going to be very hard to get the max amount of players on the park for each of those games if you're not trading like crazy, and if you have got a couple of guys in your emergencies that aren't going to play. So when I speak about fixing your bench and your emergencies, that's exactly what I mean, guys. You can't have 3 to 4 really cheap guys that aren't going to score very well or aren't even playing, because that absolutely stuffs you up each and every week here. It's almost more important than, you know, just getting good guys on the park each and every week, is that over this period here, if you're missing out on that 1 or 2 extra players each week, it might add up to 150, 250 points, and that kind of kills you. So we obviously suggest not to be trading out keepers unless they're going to miss 4 or 5 games over here. You look at Payne Haas there, he's out for 3 games, unless he doesn't back up. But, you know, guys like Murray, who I've got down the bottom here, he misses 4 games. So 13, 16, 19, and 20. That's no matter what, guys. So he could, you know, miss some more time with backing up. after, in round 14, round 17 as well. So that's where even round 14 could be tough. Payne Haas, Cleary, you've got, Tedesco in there. There's a bunch of these guys that you're going to be holding that are probably not going to back up. There's a chance that they don't back up and play in 14. So yeah, just be aware of that as well when you're creating your buy planner and setting things up to get round 13 sorted and round 14 and beyond, is obviously just making sure that the limited amount of Origin guys, the better. What we'll say, we'll look at my squad here, and Origin guys, I have Payne Haas. We've got Cleary there's 2, and then you've got Tedesco 3, Murray 4. So not terrible, but I personally am going to be looking to move on from Murray in that mids position. There seems to be a bunch of mids that are going to do okay over the bye period. So Murray's probably going to be the one to go because he's going to miss that one extra game, definitely, over all the other options. You look at Haas, you look at Cleary there, and Tedesco, their buys fall all at a perfect time. So for Payne Haas there, he has his buy in 16 is when the Broncos have there, and then a little bit later in the year he has a couple, I believe. So Haas is going to miss 13 and 19 for Origin and 16 for his bye. Cleary misses 13 and 19 for his bye anyway, and then 16 for Origin, and then Tedesco is the same, has the 13 and the 19 bye there. So I think holding 3 Origin guys is going to be completely fine as long as they're keepers. So if they're a fringe player in your best 17, and they're going to play Origin, I think they need to be moved on during that period. But if they're a top gun like Payne Haas, there's no point that you would move him out of your side at all. Cleary, it seems like it would be silly to move him on as well, unless he was missing 4 or 5 games. And same there with Teddy. The next thing I want to speak about is the edge position. So round 13 is a very, very tough one, because what you're looking at here is, you look at my interchange, I have Hosking and Trent Leoro, who are both out in round 13. Katoa and also Preston are both out in round 13. So makes it very, very tough to sort this out, because they all have the same bye schedule to start. What I've got there is 4 edges that aren't playing in 13. I have no one in that edge position. And then the issue here comes in round 14 in that one. Like, most likely you're going to be able to play them. Sweet. Will you be able to get that full 17? I don't think it's going to matter if you have an overload of edges there. But then you move to round 16, and all 4 of those guys actually play in 16. So this is where we have some issues. Katoa, Leoro, obviously same bye schedule. Preston had their bye in 13, and Hosking has his in 19 as well. So all 4 of those guys are available in 16, and we can only play 2 out of the 4. This is what I mean, where you have to look at all your positions and make sure you cover it correctly across your squad for round 13. And having 4 edges at this point is probably a little bit too much. You can wait a little bit when you've got the Storm guys who have their bye in round 9. We'll discuss them in a sec. In the Storm team in general, who is a pretty popular team for fantasy assets. But you need to be looking at these 4 guys and all your Storm players and go, oh, do I actually need all them? Most of them are probably not going to be clear sells. Like, you look at Katoa, is he a clear sell? Probably not. Even with his low score, I think averaging 50, he probably comes out and gets a 55 this week, and you go, oh, well, why the hell did we sell him? But you need to look at your squad as an overall picture. And if you're looking at your center position, your wing fullback, if you're missing out at the moment, Walshies, Birds, these type of guys are doing really well, and you're missing out on those strong scores, and you're getting it elsewhere in the edge position, which is what I'm doing right now. I'm getting good scores elsewhere, not as good in the center and wing. Come that time in round 13, I currently only have 1 center available, 1 wing fullback available, and 4 of those edges that are in the squad. So definitely something to look at. Guys like Katoa, guys like Preston there. Obviously, the Oro not going to be a keeper. You look at Katoa and Preston, they're probably just short of that keeper level. So they're the guys I'm talking about that if they have a bit of an awkward bye schedule, like the Storm coming up with a bye in round 9, 1 in 13, obviously 1 in 19 as well. You should look at these guys and go, oh, do I actually need them in my side? It doesn't have to be this week, but maybe next week or in round 13, you may have to move on from 1 or 2 of these edges in that scenario. Let's talk about Storm now. So most likely you have 3 or 4. 65-70% of people have Grant in the top 5,000, so I imagine it's very high across the board as well. He's going to be out in round 13. He's going to be out in round 9 for a starter. Let's start with round 9. You got him. If you're still holding Warbrick, that's something as well. And then you've got Trent Leoro potentially and Katoa. There's 4. If you have King, maybe you have King for one of those guys. So switch them out, which is going to be fine. But what that means is that they're all very expensive guys, and you're going to have a lot of money sitting on that bench. in round 9. Do you have hooker cover for 1? That's something you need to look at if you own Harry Grant. Definitely shouldn't be selling Harry. That would be a silly idea. They have their bye in 13 and 19. So he'll miss 13, 16, and 19 as well. Same as Payne Haas there. So that's ideal. Warbrick, are you going to need him after this round? Are you going to need him, considering they have a bye in round 9, 13, and 19? He's not a keeper. He's probably going to make a tiny bit more money. Is he someone you could trade on? Potentially. Trent Leoro, do you want to milk him for 1 more week and then trade him out? Katoa, is he a keeper? Can you use his money elsewhere? There's a lot of questions there. I think with the Storm guys, holding 2 is going to be fine. So maybe it's Katoa and also Grant. Maybe it's Grant and Warbrick, something like that, because that's going to be well over $1 million sitting on your bench in this type of week. What we've seen over pretty much, except for the Roosters bye in round 4, all the teams that have had a bye, Roosters and potentially Panthers, were 3 and 4. But since then, it's been teams that aren't they're not too awkward for us. You look at Tigers, you look at Sharkies. There was only Heinze really after Trindle was sold. You got Tigers there. Raiders this week, it's only really Taps that most people have, potentially Jamal Fogarty, but it hasn't really got tough until this round 9. So I think it's definitely something you need to look at, that if you have 4 Storm players at the moment, it's either this week or next week. I think you should be getting rid of 1 to 2 of them. 1 definitely, 2 as a maybe, and just depending on your squad depth and where you're at regarding being able to fill a 17 as well. If you have 3 Storm players out, plus you have 2 guys that aren't playing, Ben Masila and Talau, you then unfortunately have 16 playing in round 9. So definitely there should be some trades being made, whether it's to fix up your emergencies if you do end up with a bit of decent cash, whether it's trading one of those Ben Masila for a cheaper cow that does come up if there's a good one, because there hasn't been really any good ones for a while there. So that's some general thoughts around the Storm buy there. If you are buying Crossland, look at round 10. He's going to be out as well. He's then going to be out in round 14 also. So something to think about with those Knights players as well. Guys like the Warriors players, I don't think it's going to be an issue. Holding 2 of them is what's likely going to be for the Warriors guys, and probably 2 to 3 potentially of those Dolphins players in round 11. So I'm personally looking at the Hammer and him having that bye in round 11, along with Lemuelu and also Katoa. It does make it pretty tough. So these are things you really need to look forward at and kind of set up your team accordingly. So when I'm making my trades from here on in, I'm looking at round 13 as an important one. Probably around that 10 to 11 players will be my thoughts here. Maybe removing one of Ben Masila. I think Talau, he can kind of be in and out of the team, and he has that centre and wing fullback duel. Ben Masila has the duel as well, but unless he manages to get back in the side this week, I think he's going to be done unless there's multiple injuries. So really, I think if you can trade him for the next good cow, as I said, that we think is going to be good anyway, and not a bit of a maybe not, and gain sort of 50 to 80k potentially, then you could trade them out, just improve that position, and that would naturally improve each and every round for me. Apart from that, when that person traded in has a buy. So that's something to think about for my squad. And guys that I'm looking to potentially trade out, as I said, is using Murray's cash over. I think we hold him all the way through until round 13, but if something happens, we can decide over the next few weeks. But I think Murray definitely is going to be traded out. Suolii's on the chopping block potentially this week, but as this sits, just change with your trades every week. So just make sure you look at it and then make your clear decision there. So Murray definitely. I think Hosking probably stays. I think one of Katoa and Leoro goes over the next 2 weeks. Potentially both come round 13 as well. Something to think about. But the other thing there is if you get through that round 13, you then have them all the way through to 19. So I definitely think holding 1 is probably a good play. Preston as well, he's an interesting one. Misses 13 and 17. Over the next few weeks, if he continues to get some slightly lower minutes, then he might be a trade out as well. But as I said, you can't really hold all 4 of them. So, potentially 2 of them and some edge cover. Like I've got Hopgood as edge cover there. That's the other thing that's going to be really important, guys. If you have some dual position players like Hamiso, he's going to be super important because you can plug and play him either in the centres or the wing fullback. You look at some other rounds here. What do we got here? Round 19. You look at round 19. If you've got Hammer, Lemuelu playing, and you have Alamotti as well, you have 3 players in a centre position, but you could plug Lemuelu in the edge position, or you could plug Hamiso down in the wing fullback position, which I'm currently missing a bunch of players. You look at Iasuali'i and Tedesco out in round 13 and 19, so that's where it's probably hard to have two players from the same team in one round having their bye, so that could be frustrating. That's why I'd be looking at Suali'i. As I said, probably Murray, either Lioro or Katoa, potentially both are going to be moved on. Haas is going to stay. Hopgood hopefully stays. Ford, Robson, they all stay. Johnson's going to hopefully stick in the squad all year. Miller, I think the same as well, guys. He's going to be out in 14 and 19. So he misses one of those big bye rounds. He's going to be really important in that wing fullback position, especially when you're needing three players going forward. That's all the real clear ones at the moment. Warbrick's obviously a trade out as well for me. And, Katoa might be eventually. Maybe we do move him on there, but he does play every other game except for round 16 once you get past that round 11 bye. So, if I'm doing really well and he makes a fair bit of cash, you can move him on as well. So just things you need to think about, guys. 15, I think, is going to be fine. You should be able to get 17 on the park. So it's really, that's just a normal one when only the one team, the Cowboys, has the bye. But that's when I'm going to need some hooker cover. So there's just so many things to think of each and every week. Robson has great cover all the way through until round 15. As long as you have someone to play hooker, then you're sweet all the way to 19 then. So yeah, so much to think about with this bye schedule. Let's look at the next 3 games now. I hope that really helps you in your setup. That was just an easy one on Excel. Just popped all the players in the rounds, and I had some plans up in the top right corner with Hammer, Manu, Tapani, all those types of players that I'm looking at to potentially plug some of these holes that I am missing out on. And this changes each and every week with obviously players popping up that are going to be good for your squads. Anyway, let's move to round 8. So we've got Raiders have their bye, then we've got Storm, and then Knights, just to make sure you're all clear on that one. Dragons over the next 3 weeks. Roosters, Bulldogs, and also Tigers, and Cowboys from there. So you look at those 4, and you look at Jack Birds and Sloans, and you go, oh, they'll probably do fine. So I think both of those guys, continue holding, continue looking to bring in Bird for sure. Seagulls, you got Tigers, Titans, and Broncos. It also looks pretty well fine for them. So if you're holding Turbo, please continue doing that. DCE should be able to do pretty well. Also, Panthers, they got Bunnies, they got Tigers, and they got Warriors. So a tough one this week. And then it opens up a little bit with the Tigers and Warriors. Obviously not as good as Bunnies, but are they ahead of them on the ladder? Yeah, potentially. What are they, 2nd, 3rd? Something like that. 4th. In top 4 anyway. We go to Roosters, Dragons, Warriors, and Cowboys. So a better run for their outside backs. So Suali's, I can see him has a potential hold. He's not really getting involved as much as you want, but I think tries and try assists are around the corner for him. What does he have? 1 try this year? Something like that? I don't know. Yuck. Anyway, but Teddy, great buy this week if you're looking at him. Obviously, you need to make sure you don't have a multitude of Origin guys in your squad. Titans there, you got Dolphins, Eagles, and the Eels there. So you're looking at that set up and you go, it's not too bad as well. So Titans players, not many of them, but Fafita should be able to do really well. Does he play Origin? Maybe, but they have a bye in round 13 and 16, so it's hard to sort of pick him up there with that in mind. Sharkies, you got Dogs, Cowboys, Dolphins. Again, pretty solid. No one really has an absolutely tough bye schedule except for the Broncos. I think it gets a little bit tougher for them. But Sharkies should do pretty fine over the next bunch of weeks as well. All their outside backs. Tigers, you got Panthers, Dragons, Bunny. So a little bit harder for them. So not super excited for them. Sorry, missed the Seagulls in that one first. And same with the Sharkies, missed the Dogs. So Dogs, Cowboys, Dolphins, no one. Raiders have their bye, and then it's Dolphins, Dogs in their next couple, and they'd have a bye all the way through the 16. But it's very interesting now if you actually look at Tarpany or not, considering that you had a really poor one. It has a very, very high break even and not getting huge minutes. So yeah, he's a funny one for sure. Storm guys, we spoke about them in detail. Warriors bye, then the Rabbitohs, Broncos, Dolphins before their next bye. So yeah, few misses in that one. And that's the other thing to think of, guys. If they're missing a couple of games, 2 of the next, well, they got round 9 for them. And they play 3 and then miss another. So 2 of the next 5 games, they have a bye. Their replacement, if there's, just say you got a Harry Grant in there, their replacement gets you 35 to 40. Just say it's Crossland over the next bunch of weeks and he gets a 40 average. You're missing out on 20 for those 2 weeks. So 40 in total. Is that worth a trade? No. So you wouldn't trade Grant out just for that, as long as you have a half-decent replacement. Think of that in the other positions, just making sure that if you do trade out or you do hold Katoa or Lioro and they're 40 points, 50 points, that you're able to cover it with a 35 to 45. Something a little bit under them will do really well. And that shows that, if they do have their bye, it's not the end of the world. You just need someone to be able to cover. And if you can't cover them, then it is worth the trade longer term. Okay, Knights there, you've got Cowboys, Eels, and then their bye as well. So, yeah, be careful loading up on Knights players for their round 10 bye and round 14. So that's 2 games again in that next 6. That's, they'll miss 7, sorry, round 2 in the next 7 for the Knights. Dolphins there, you've got the Titans, Raiders, Sharks. So, solid overall there for Dolphins. I think they got plenty of guys that are good pickups, but just be aware of having too many in round 11. Warriors there, you've got Storm, Roosters, Panthers, so pretty tough for all the Warriors. They probably have the worst stretch along with the Broncos there, who have Eels, Bunnies, and Eagles. So you'd say at that point that Warriors is tougher, but I don't think that makes too much of a difference for guys like Ford and Johnson. A little less open gameplay, but that would mean Johnson kick meters and Ford plenty of tackles and runs. So I don't think it matters too much for those type of guys. And Torkel Harris, he's going to be a sneaky option at some point as well. Let's go to Dogs then. You've got Sharks, Dragons, Raiders. Looks fine for them. Not super excited to play Alamotti this week, but he's a clear hold, guys. Don't worry about moving him on. And then the Eels have Broncos, the Knights, and the Titans. So, apart from this game here against the Broncos, it's the draw looks okay. Raiders following that one in round 11. Cowboys there, they've got the Knights, the Sharks, and the Roosters. I think anyone who plays the Cowboys at the moment, you're looking for a pretty solid game of footy. Plenty of points on your end, because the Cowboys suck at the moment. And the Bunnies there, Panthers, Broncos, Storm. Actually, they might have the toughest, to be honest. How do they have a ridiculous run of these games? They've played Sharks, Panthers, Roosters, Eagles, Storm, Dogs, Dolphins. So Dogs and Dolphins will be their least easiest games, and they've come out and destroyed them. So that means something, doesn't it? And then, Panthers, Broncos, Storm, Tigers, Eels, Raiders, Titans. So it gets a little bit easier there. Tigers, Raiders, Titans, and Dragons before their first bye. So very, very interesting. But I really hope that helped you guys with your bye planning and setting you up for your squads. As I said, make sure that 13 is the only guys that are available in 13, 16, 19. And wish you plenty of luck. Good luck in team lists tonight. I hope there's some cheapies that pop up for all of us, and you trade wisely. Make sure, though, I asked my private group as well about trades, and they're all sitting between 23 and sort of 26. 26 is the high end, a couple of 28s as well, a few more head-to-head players that had 28. So just be aware, if you continue to do those 3 trades, it's going to make it really tough to navigate this buy period. Good luck this week, guys. See you later.